Welcome everyone to Dr. Seo's channel. Dr. Seo's here, and today we are showing you a new deck profile, which is my favorite deck since I started playing this game. This has so many names, so this is an evolution of Wargreymon Yellow from BT4, which has been existing since that format, with the new BT6 support in the form of Dynasmon, Weaver's Breath, the new TK plus carry support. So this kind of strategy is often named as security discard, which is a really skillful deck that consists in sacrificing your own security stack in order to get value from your cards. So starting with the deck profile, we are also running Mastemon and Dynasmon as the level 6s, and we have plenty of effects that lets us remove the opposing Digimons while we are making our plays, so that we can get all the aggro since the beginning of the deck while controlling the board. That's the main strategy here. The secondary effects of controlling our security stack with recovery effects, sacrificing effects, and so on is like the second theme of the deck that lets us reach the full value of the cards. Let's begin with the deck profile. I hope you enjoyed this video as I have enjoyed just creating it, since this deck is quite special for me. Let's start with the DGX, 4 copies of Upamon, as we want to achieve the most value of our cards. We first need to draw as much cash as possible, especially in BT6 format where everything is so aggressive, and we need as much cards as possible to reach our combo pieces, which commonly are the level 6 and the level 5s. Upamon lets us draw cards, so this is currently the best yellow egg, and the second egg we are playing is Coromon, which lets us minus 1000 DP to any Digimon when we are in the control status of our securities. The reason to play Upamon over Coromon or even Pigmon or Bibimon or so much good yellow eggs we have a lot of them is because this format we won't be deleting anything dangerous with the Coromon's effect. It's pretty situational, so we rather drawing new cards rather than having this DP reduction. This is quite common in cards like let's say Sistermons with 3000 or 5000. So if we have the common effect of Estermon or whatever card we need with DP reduction, we will be able to get rid of those cards, but we aren't killing anything with extra 1000 DP that we want. So I choose to keep the situational cards out of the deck list. And let's start with the rookies. 3 copies of Bushi Agumon, because this deck will cheat out the Bushi Agumon in the late game. Also, this deck has a lot of ways to get memory in the forms of Blinding Ray and the memory tamers that we are running. So we don't really want to explain so much. Bushi Agumon is a good card. We will cheat out Bushi to the field, and we will make Bushi for game in the most of the games. 4 copies of Estermons, pretty self-explanatory, is the best yellow card in the entire game, apart from TK. 2 copies of Paramon, as we are sacrificing our securities, and as this is a really aggressive format, we want as much recovery effects as possible. It is also good in the early game to evolve it, as we don't have any inheritable effects on our level 3s, so this promo Patamon is a good tool to have. Next, 4 copies of promo Pulsemon. This card is a staple in yellow, and especially in this kind of strategies, as we can get the full value of Pulsemon just by doing our normal plays. The last one, the fake rookie, Luzmon. Luzmon will give you a controlled recovery effect while being a good beater, and we will cheat him with effects like Angiwomon's Inheritable and Mastemon. So Dynasmon has a good time here. Also, we are having a lot of cards in the trash more often than a common yellow deck, so this card is pretty good. Now let's move to the level 4s for full playset of both Turuyemon and Pidomon, because it has a low evolution cost, and we have the blocker, we have the cheap beater, self-explanatory. Took one copy of Gatomon. Promo Gatomon is a blocker when we have a when we have a purple Digimon, and it is another recovery effect that can be really handy. Next, Unimon. Unimon is pretty good by being a blocker, by let us work with 1 memory on our turn, by leaving our opponents at 1 memory too, and it has also 6000, which makes him unkillable by Bao Hakmon's effect, which is something really good, as Jesmon with Sistermons is a pretty popular deck. Next, into the level 5s, we have 2 copies of Wargreymon. I really like this card because we can cheat out our tamers, which is something really good, and it gives us a control form of DP reduction, which is also pretty handy. I think this card is quite undervalued, underrated, because no one is playing him, and I find a lot of value on him, just by being able to cheat out a tamer, because in a format as aggressive as BT6 is, we don't want to spend a turn by setting a memory tamer. So Wargreymon lets us do this for free, while having our TK's effect available. So yeah, Wargreymon is a pretty good card. And the rest, 1 copy of Sidemon. This card is mean by the bricks, the bricky hands that we may have when we just land the Sidemon, and then on the next turn we can just evolve him into Wargreymon or something like that and start the aggression. Sidemon is a staple by this means, and I think it's a good card overall. We have potential brick hands that can be fixed, and we can just scale up quickly by evolving with the minimum cost of 2 for evolution. So yeah, Sidemon is pretty decent card. Next, the utility level 5s, we have Angiwomon, which is nice, pretty nice, because we can control a Digimon on the board with the evolution effect, and with the inheritable effect we are able to cheat out our rookies easily. So we can get recovery effects from Dynasmon, from Patamon, we can get memory plus draw from Pulsemon, Bushi Agumon for free for some extra attacks over to close the game. Next we have Wargreymon, which is also one of my favorites. To be honest, we don't have anything in this format that is easily killable with Wargreymon's effect. So minus 4k DP, the reduction is not as good as it was during the previous format, but this card is still pretty scary on the breeding area, so our opponent will not move his Digimon from the breeding area if he's watching a Wargreymon on ours. So yes, we have room for Wargreymon, but we could remove it for 2 extra copies of Sidemon or extra copies of another useful level 5. Yeah. And lastly, the last level 5 is 1 copy of starter deck and Angiwomon. When digivolving, recovery +1. If we have 3 or less, recovery +1. Some games are pretty close to be lost, so having extra forms of recovery +1 is the best tool that we can have in those games. That's why we are having basically recovery in each level. We have Patamon and Dynasmon on level 3, Gatomon on level 4, and Angiwomon on level 5, and we will have Dynasmon on level 6. So recovery is quite important for this deck, so don't forget about that breaking point. And now finally with level 6, 2 copies of Mastemon. Mastemon can revive basically a lot of tools. We have blockers, we have Getamon, which is blocker plus recovery plus 1, we have some recovery, draw, memory, removal, extra attackers, so Mastemon is really valuable here. Next we have Wargreymon from BT4, which is the main card from this deck, as it gathers all the offensive plays for this deck by attacking twice, removing Digimons, controlling our security stack. So Wargreymon is a pretty excellent card in this deck, and it will be the main level 6 we are based on. And next we have Dynasmon, which is a really decent card in this deck, but as we have already explained in previous videos, we don't want to focus on Dynasmon so much because first of all we can lose by taking out ourselves. We have some defense in Dynasmon, but we don't want to center all the deck strategy around him because it will turn most of the cards bad in a lot of matchups, and we cannot let that happen. That's pretty everything. Dynasmon is pretty good because if we control him and it has no answer, we are just winning that game. There is no way we lose that game with Dynasmon on board. Taking this in account, the recovery effect is awesome with effects like Wargreymon, Mastemon, Blinding Ray, TK. We have a lot of cool interactions that could be considered as cheating in a lot of senses. And the last one, Chaosmon Balduran, 2 copies. Sometimes we want to get rid of Dynasmon because we are close to being decked out, or we need to control the game, control the board state, remove a big threat from our opponent. Chaosmon is quite good on performing this task, and it is also a good Digimon to have under security. Let's remember that with all the recovery effects we can get something like Chaosmon or a Tamer or something like that in the security with a lot of probability. Chaosmon Balduran can just kill an opposing Bone of Friendship and Bone of Courage, Bone maybe a Jesmon that has been only DP boost once with his own effect. So Chaosmon is a good thing to have on the security. And let's explain the options because we still have time. 2 copies of Blinding Ray. It is an excellent card that is still allowed to be played in the competitive scene. I don't know why, but this card is nuts, and especially with Dynasmon on the board, this card is completely free. So it turns into, yes, gain 2 memory for free, gain 2 memory and recover 1, you know, wow, awesome card, and it lets us win a game where we don't have memory tamer, which is also pretty interesting. 2 copies of Wyvern's Breath. As we are speaking, Wyvern's Breath is pretty good, this format, because it kills almost everything. And with all the recovery effects, it is quite possible for us to have it on the security. So if you don't have Wyvern's Breath in your security stack, you could get him on the top with Dynasmon effect or any recovery effect that we have. Next one for the memory tamers is TK, which you could get in the promo pack that is being given to the players in the tournaments. This TK is also one of the best cards in the entire game. It lets us start with 3 memory on all our turns, which is amazing, but we can on play check our security stack, reveal 1 yellow card and add it to their hand to recovery +1 and shuffle. This gives us perfect information of our security stack, and it will give us a lot of comfortability and knowledge of what we need to do. For example, let's suppose we have Wyvern's Breath on the security, so we add the Digimon we need, maybe the level that we are missing on our hand, and then we leave the Wyvern's Breath. So we choose not to block with a blocker when our opponent is attacking because we know that that Wyvern's Breath is there. These kind of interactions are pretty good. So playing with information of your security stack is amazing. Also, you're just adding the cards you need to your hand from your security, while losing no security cards. If you're missing level 3 or maybe the level 6 or something, you are getting in from TK. So perfect value from a perfect tamer. And the last card is TK plus carry from BT6, which is the new dual yellow tamer. This card is amazing, especially in this deck, as we can get full value from it from the beginning of the game. Just by activating Blinding Ray into TK plus carry will give us 3 memory, a minimum of 3 memory in each of our turns. Working with memory, with granted memory every turn, is quite good for us, as we can still play the game and we can get our power plays easier and faster than our opponents. Well, this deck has given me a lot of victories recently in local tournaments. I have also been having a really good matchup against Dynasmon, especially because we tend to break less than the Dynasmon deck does. And against Gabumon Bond of Friendship, we have excellent time if our security is good enough or if we are faster than him. This deck kills fast an opponent, so in an aggro mirror match, this deck has a lot of odds to perform correctly and win those kind of games. Against control decks like Musketeers and Security Control, it is more difficult to win, and that's why we are running Mastemon and a lot of recovery effects, because most times we need to outlast them with our resources, and Mastemon is great when we know what they have in the top of their security. This is pretty common because they are running Tactical Retreat, Reinforcement, Memory Boost and cards like that, with a chosen a chosen security recovery. So Mastemon is great in this kind of matchups. Also, we have ways to cheat out the Bushy Agumon from the trash or from the hand, so we can kill them fast when we have our setup ready. Finally, against Rookie Rush and the rest of the decks of the format, this deck is pretty decent against everything. And I could say that the only bad matchup is aggro decks that are even faster than us, especially as we are sacrificing our own security cards. We tend to be weaker against the heavy aggro decks. So I could say that Rookie Rush is still the boogeyman of this deck, but our DP reduction is pretty efficient against them. On closing facts, I think this deck will be better with BT7 support, as we will be getting yellow hybrids, and we are also getting a lot of recovery effects and good stuff in yellow cards. But the most of the deck will be remaining the same, as the cards are already pretty good. Maybe Zephyrmon and Jet Sylphimon, which give us, when digivolving, recovery +1 with a lot of efficiency, and maybe Susanomon in BT7. We receive extra support, but I don't think that the final deck list will change that much, because most of the deck is already taken. On the other hand, we have the dual color spoilers and the starter deck of Mastemon. I think some cards of that deck could be fitting well in this strategy, and we will need to see these cards in action before taking a decision, but the future for this deck is quite unexplored, and we have a strong deck right now as it is. So investing in this deck is a good decision from my point of view, and I hope that you have enjoyed this video, and that if you leave your comments in the comment section with your good and your bad feedback, you will help me to create quality content. And thank you for watching this video, and please, if you can help me with your subscription, please click the subscribe button, and I hope that this will be useful for all of you. And yeah, that's it. Goodbye.